and the neckline was very high, covering her up very good. I said, why are you dressed like this? She said, what do you mean? I said, okay, when you were born, how were you dressed? She just stared at me kind of funny. I said, well, let me help you. You weren't wearing anything at all. You were naked, in the buff, nude, no clothes, right? Oh, my God. I said, well, that is true, right? She said, well, and while she was sputtering and sparting like that, I said, okay, no. If you're born without any clothes at all, then why would people put clothes on? Because isn't your question dealing with the logic behind the way they're dressed? She goes, yeah. I said, well, look at them. How are they dressed? Why are they wearing what they wear? She said, well, I don't know. It's oppressive. I said, no, let me answer the question for you. Why are you dressed like you're dressed is because of what? What is the reason you have dressed like this? By now she was pretty flustered. She said, modesty, modesty. I said, ah. Now if you turn to these women and you say the same thing to them, why are you dressed like that? What will they tell you? Modesty. And who's to determine what modesty is? In Islam, Allah is the one who tells us what modesty is. So it's up to Him, the Creator and the Sustainer of everything, to tell us what the rules are. And He has shown us what modesty really is. And for the woman's dress, He makes it real clear in His book how a woman should dress to be modest. That she should cover her body. Her attire should be such that it doesn't show off her adornments and her attractions. And this is modesty. And by the way, I'd like to mention something else to you, ma'am. What you considered to be modesty, based on your logic, they took what was instructed to them by Allah, and they consider that the right modesty. The only difference between your clothes and their clothes is about 6 or 8 inches of material covering their head. And if you think about it, for that few inches of material, you would be dressed just like them. And all for what? Your opinion of modesty versus God's opinion of modesty. So what do you say to that? Well, she got mad and left the room. But the people who stayed in the room, alhamdulillah, many of them accepted Islam right there and then on that day. And in fact, one of my dear friends who became Muslim that day still is talking on these subjects that we discussed on that day. I want to mention this because when people see the real truth presented in the right way, then it's up to Allah to guide them. But at least we did our best in presenting the message. True, the lady went out, and she didn't stay to hear the rest of the program. But it did have a good effect on the non-Muslims and the Muslims alike. Because now, how do you think the Muslim sisters feel? They feel very much vindicated here because someone has presented their side of it in a logical way. The lady said modesty. This is what our sisters are saying. Only difference is you don't get to make up what modesty is. That would just be somebody's judgment, whereas God has already given us the judgment in the Quran. The modesty is determined by Him. And He tells us in the Quran, now we can go to the surah, now we can talk about this chapter. Surah An-Nur, chapter 24, verse 31. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze, to guard their private parts. And now this is the modesty God is telling about. And when they go out, what do they need to do? And Allah said for them to draw the khimar down over juyubihinna. And what is juyubihinna? This is their chest area, so that they don't show any of the cleavage. So the idea here, and Allah is telling that in front of certain men who are not your fathers, not your brothers, not your husbands, not your sons, etc., these men you guard your adornments and guard your modesty. And this is how to do it. And Allah has told you. This is the verse that explains that. Oh, mashallah. And it helps people to understand. What happened later was, the one who was doing the program for the Muslim Students Association told me, he said, you know who that woman was that came in here? I said, I don't know. He said, that was my professor. And he said, now when I go back to class, I'm afraid she's going to give me an F. I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. She asked a question, we gave her the answer. Later on, I asked him about the professor, and he said, you know what happened? In fact, she gave me a very good grade, and she was impressed with the way that we gave her the answer. She liked it. And this is what it should be. The people don't have to accept Islam. That's up to them. But we have to present the answer in a way they can understand it. And that's basically what we're trying to do here. We're not saying that these are the answers which will cause people to go to Islam. No. What we're saying that these are the answers that give them the understanding of the meaning of the response to their question in their language, in simple terms. That's the best we can do. There is one other thing that you can add to this. After you've presented Islam to the best of your ability, you should ask them, are you now prepared to begin to worship your Creator, your Sustainer, without partners? And if they say, well, yeah, then begin to talk to them about the Shahada. And what is the Shahada? The Shahada basically is to bear witness and open testimony. There really is only one God, and He has no partners. And that all of our worship and our love and our devotion is for Him and Him alone. And that He has no associates of any kind. He has no daughters or sons or uncles or aunts or father or mother. He is God alone. When they understand that, and they understand the concept of the worship, then it's up to Allah to guide them. But you can encourage them to make their Shahada. One of the things that you can do in this regard is just to simply ask them, who is your mother? They'll say, well, my mother is Sarah or Mary. Okay. Who is your father? My father is Jim or Bill or Omar. Okay, fine. Now you have no problem telling me who your father is and who your mother is. And would you bear witness to this fact in public? They say, sure, why not? Okay. If you're willing to do that, then why not tell us in public who is your God? You've stated who your parents are. Why not tell us who your God is? And they go, well, yeah, that makes sense. Well, having understood that, let's do it. Say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. And then explain to them the meaning behind it. I bear witness and open testimony. There's none worthy to be worshipped except the one true God, Allah. And I bear witness and open testimony that Muhammad is His messenger and His servant. And once they've made their Shahada, then it's up to Allah. Now, in talking to the people, many times when you begin to present this, you might feel intimidated. You might feel like, this is too much, I can't do that. Well, just try your best. But the most important thing really isn't in your conversation. Believe me, it isn't. The most important thing is in your intention. So when you're talking to them, remember you're talking to them on behalf of what is Islam. And you're trying to lift up this fog and remove the confusion and make it clear for them what Islam is really teaching and what it's all about. When you do that, there's one more little final point. Get up in the night, in the middle of the night, and make wudu. Wash yourself up. And then set out your prayer rug in front of you and pray 2 rak'ah and pray for these people in the camel layl. And ask Allah to guide them. Because whoever Allah guides, nobody will misguide them. But whoever Allah misguides, they'll never be guided. So that's the simple way to wrap up this part of our program on the subject of lifting the fog. Let's all work together to lift this fog. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.